All right, 1, 2. Let me get into the camera. Hey guys, welcome to the van. So we are inside the van, and I'm going to be showing you how to prep the van floor for the soundproofing that we're going to put in here, which is kill mat. Then we're going to put down our insulation and then our plywood. We're not going to do all that in this live stream tonight. We're just going to go ahead and start the process of teaching you guys how to do this. And because we had a countdown and we were getting this van done, there's going to be a lot of progress that's going to be happening throughout these live streams. So stuff will be happening pretty quick. And what I really want to do with this live stream is invite you guys to ask questions. So whatever questions you have, it can be on the floor process or whatever we're doing during the live stream. Or if you guys join in at any time during the live stream, you can ask any van question, as long as it's van related. And yeah, I'll hop on the computer and see if I can answer it for you. We got one fixed camera tonight, so if you got a question, I'll be running over to the computer. You won't see me, but I'll be on the computer. So I'm going to show you a couple of the products that is going to go into here, and then yeah, it's pretty much going to be just a long build process tonight. Nothing too fancy. You'll just see me cutting the kill mat, and then I'll show you what this PVC strip is. It's another part that I've used to take care of the flex that happens in van floors. And then we'll talk about this piece of aluminum as well. And real quick, before we get into it, let's talk about the Van Build cheat sheet. So if you guys are new to Van Builder HQ, we have a free product that I have put together and developed, and it's essentially an Excel sheet, so it looks just like this, but we call it the DIY Van Build cheat sheet. And essentially what this is the last 3 years of me building vans. These are all the products that I've bought, I've tested, vetted, and what I do is I put them on a Excel sheet, mainly for my reference, so I can go back and find all the stuff that I've already used and that I like, but I organize it in a way that anyone can use it, and it's a great reference for van parts. So you have electrical items, you have fasteners, HVAC components, hardware, insulation, kitchen products, roofing, solar. Solar is nice because these are all the products I use on the vans. Just for example, like the 200-watt panel system from Energy. It gives you MC4 connectors, Z brackets, screws, branch adapters, stuff like this that just makes the install process very easy. And then last but not least, and most important, is the tool section. The tool sections, this is what I use in the shop. So if you guys see me using a hydraulic crimper, or you see me using the ProPEX expansion tool from Milwaukee, these products are on this list, and it's just a great way to reference it. And over time, this list builds, so stuff that I find that I want to add to it, I'll add to it, and so forth. But if you're interested in picking up this list, 100% free, go to vanbuilderhq.com or click on the link in the description below. Put your name and email address. I'm going to send it right to your inbox. Again, completely free. Great information to help you out on your DIY van build journey. And all right, let's get back to the video. So, yeah, I can see the chat here, so we're good. My head's not chopped off in the video, so we're going to go ahead and get started. So first we're going to talk about the starting point for a van floor and why you're probably going to be either insulating it or putting wood on it. What we want to do is, the van floor is metal, it's cold. If it's cold outside, the van's going to get cold really fast. If it's hot, same thing. I remember when I had my first van and I was driving around in it, I didn't insulate the ceiling, the roof. I did the floor, but I didn't do the roof. And it just makes such a difference when you insulate the inside of the van. But the van floor in particular is really good because you can do there's a lot of benefits in treating the floor. One is you can actually reduce the sound and the noise inside your van when you're driving. So the kill mat, for example, this is the soundproofing material we're going to be using today. It's not really big for insulation. Doesn't really have like a good insulative value. But what it does do is it deadens the noise, the road noise, that kind of droning you're going to have when you're taking those long trips. And if you're building a camper van, 9 times out of 10, you're probably going to take a very long trip. And if you have the inside of your van is quiet as possible, it's going to be a much more enjoyable trip. And it's just, you're going to make your vacation or trip that much better. Because typically the rest of the van is probably going to be insulated pretty well. But we're just going to focus on the floor. So what this product does is it changes the, this is a technical word here, but it changes the resonant frequency of the floor. So this tinty sound, it's like a high frequency. And so what we're going to do is we're adding this to it, and it changes, lowers the frequency and gets rid of some of that noise. So that's kind of like the technical part behind it. And there's kind of a cost benefit here, or trade-off. Mix my words up. What I'm trying to say is there's thin sound deadening and there's thick. Thicker is better, but thicker weighs more and it costs more. The thin stuff is nice because you can kind of control. It's just easier to cut, and it still does a good job. So we're using this thinner material. It's the 50 mil thickness, and the reason we're using it is because I'm gonna get back to my van floor theory, but real quick, we're gonna be talking about floor height. And using this thickness of material, or actually very thin, it's going to allow us to put in this PVC piece that I was talking to you guys about earlier. And it makes the floor level with the corrugations. So we'll talk more about that in a second. But getting back to the point of insulating your floor, you're going to remove the sound. It's going to be more enjoyable when you're driving. And then the next thing that's going to happen is you have the ability to insulate it. So we are going to be putting the Fomular 150. This one I get from Home Depot. It's that Pink Panther insulation. It's XPS. So it's a rigid foam. And what's nice about that is it has compressive strength. It's not crazy compressive strength, but it is 15 psi. So if you can think about it, if you have these ribs of the van, if you have a 1x1 square, you can put 15 pounds. It'll support 15 pounds on that 1 square inch, which is pretty good. What that really means is the floor is not going to smush into the bottom of the van that bad. Now, there's going to be a little bit of deflection, so now we're getting back to this piece of PVC. And if you notice, these corrugations right here, they're close together. There's a gap here, and then there's a humongous gap over here. So what we want to do is, so we don't have these, kind of bowing of the floor when we walk on it. It's not that noticeable, but if you have a chance to really make it great, that's what I like to do. So what I've done is I found this piece of PVC. So what's nice about it is it's not going to rot. It's plastic. And this is actually for screened porches, screened in porch. So this is what you would actually cover where the nails and everything go, and the screen on a screened in porch. This is kind of the strip that goes on the outside to cover all that. But what I found that it makes a great spacer for your van floor. So when you couple it with this 50 mil thick kill mat, and you have this PVC, what you have is you have a flat surface, and it allows for to absorb this deflection right here when you walk on it, or say you kind of load the van up. The nice part is you don't have to put this everywhere. It's cheap, but you don't have to put it everywhere. So what we're going to do is we're not going to glue this in today, but once we put the kill mat down, I'll show you where I put it. It's pretty obvious where it goes. It's going to go in this middle channel over here to the your right. We're going to put it here, and then over here, and then we'll put a couple strips over here. And then what it's going to do is distribute the weight. We don't have heavy things on here, but the aluminum cabinets will go over there. So once you get the aluminum cabinet and the Isotherm Cruise 130, it's a pretty good amount of weight. So it keeps it nice and stable. Same thing for the kitchen galley over here. But yeah, these little vinyl PVC strips do a pretty good job. And this is just going to be siliconed on top of the kill mat. So we'll be doing that. And then once that's all finished, we have our foam. So we're going to go ahead and bring in a piece of foam here so you guys can see it. Hopefully it's on the, I know we got a glare. So this is the Fomular 150. It's got the Pink Panther on it. Lowe's sells something like this. It's like a light green color, but I don't really like it. I don't think the compressive strength is the same. So this stuff is you can actually feel it with your hands. It's actually hard to kind of squeeze, which actually makes it very easy to cut. Now this it is insulation, so it does have an R value. It has an R value of R5, and that's with the 1-inch version. So they make this, I think get it in 1/2 inch, maybe 2 inches, or 1.5 inches possibly. We're using the 1-inch, and I talked about the size of this in the live stream previously, because when you're working, and you can use kind of like conventional cuts of lumber. So in a van, you're prepping everything. If you use 1 inch of the foam, and then you have 1/2 inch plywood, you have 1.5 inches. So if you bought a 2x2, you can kind of cut some 2x2s and use them to play around with where you want to install stuff and to keep it level with the floor. If you guys have a question about that, just let me know. But that's the insulation. And then what we do is we have our plywood, and this is just a sample piece that I have right here. So this is a sanded ply, and it is, let's see how many plies are in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it's a 7 ply. It's very, 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 very rigid and extremely smooth. You don't have to get the one that's kind of pre-finished on both sides, but it's very, it's good. I mean, you can actually build cabinets out of it if you needed to. But this will obviously be the top layer of the floor. And then the final piece that we'll talk about is how are we going to prep this for our lawn seal flooring. So that's our permanent flooring that's going to be epoxied on. We don't want to put the epoxy on the raw wood. In Thomas's van, there was a special coating, it's a waterproof coating on top of the plywood. So we did not have to put like a special adhesive to get the contact. It made really good contact on the plywood that we used. It was part of the ABC rig floor system. And so what they essentially are using a zip sheathing with integrated foam insulation kind of sandwiched together. And then that zip sheathing has a green waterproof coating. And then that's what the epoxy went on top of. But since we have raw plywood, I did some research, and for epoxy, you can go to Sherwin-Williams and get this Insul X. So it's a waterborne bonding primer. It's very expensive. It's about, I think it's like $70 for a gallon. But we want to make sure that we have good adhesion to the floor. So that's why we're buying it. I just got it in white. It just is not mixed or anything like that. But this sticks bonding primer. This is going to prep the floor so that when we put the epoxy on, it's going to work really well, because this is specially formulated to for epoxy. And it is a urethane acrylic, if anybody is wanting to know. So you'll see that in a future live stream. All right. So let's go ahead and start prepping for the kill mat. Again, if you guys have any questions, put those in the chat. When we do our kill mat, we're going to want to set up a cutting station. So I got this piece of plywood over here, and that's just going to allow us to get our razor and cut this stuff. It's very thin. It cuts really easy. What I like to do is just go through, get a width, and then just kind of chop up a bunch of them. Don't go crazy, but if you cut it wrong, I mean, it's just sound dead material. It's no big deal. Let me check the computer, and then we'll get started installing this. See how everything's looking. All right, looking good. So before we put this down, what we did is we went through and cleaned the whole entire van floor. We went through with our rust preventative, and we went over any shiny spots that we roughed up by prepping for the flip and fold seat install. Once we finished with that, we made sure before we took our plywood and foam away that we outlined where we do not want any type of kill mat or sound dead material. So this is outlined, the seat is outlined, and that's pretty much it. So let's get rid of this foam and start putting some kill mat down. And it's pretty much just going to be a chill live stream. Looking forward to answering your guys' questions if you have any tonight. But other than that, it is going to be me working on the van floor. So just want to let you guys know so that you're not watching and wondering what is going on in here. So first thing we're going to do is we're just going to kind of work our way from the middle and go to the outside. That way we can keep our cuts pretty even. And we're only going to put kill mat here, here. We'll skip over the small sections, continue here, and then go over there. And then once I put this down, you can hear this. So it's kind of a little sound like a before. And then I'll show you what it sounds like after that. And then one tool that I forgot to pick up and then show you guys is the roller. So there's a special roller that you're going to need to use to install this. This is off of Amazon as well. All right. Forgetting that my camera is mounted to the van itself. Let me get it straightened up here. There we go. Excellent. All right. Let's get going here. So this is the roller. And it's a rubber roller so that you can kind of go over joints. But you really need this type of roller, because the pressure that you're going to put down on this is really what's going to make this contact really well. If you just lay it on there, you know, it's possible that it can fall off, but man, once you roll this, it's not going anywhere. So we just put down this little bit. So let's see what it sounds like after just this one piece. So this is kind of before. This is after. Before. After. And we got the German Shepherd wondering what's going on. All right, so I'm just going to keep going. And you don't have to put these right against each other. You know, you can kind of space it out so you're not wasting material. And then when you're finished, whatever you have left, you know, just go crazy. Just take all the areas and you know, go ahead and soundproof them. But just roll it in the middle first and then make your way to the edges. And you kind of see this is kind of like, this material is kind of gummy. And then some of these cuts might be wider, so just, you know, just play around with what you're picking up. But it is important. I went through here, like I just said, and I did my rust preventative. So I cleaned the surface, and then I painted it, let it dry. Because you're never coming back to this. Hopefully you never come back to this. But yeah, once your floor is in, it's in. So you know, you want to do it the right way. Once again, if you guys have any questions, put those in the chat. Does not have to be related to this video. We will be having a future episode where we put in our swivel seats. So we got the two of the Scopima swivel seats. We also have the parking brake lowering kit. So from 2020 to 21, there was a change, and I think 2021 and up, the parking brake has moved. So it's electronic, but this is a 2020. It's a new 2020, but it's a 2020, and it has the parking brake over here. So we will be installing the parking brake lowering kit. So that's something that you can purchase. And as you're going in and out of the van, you might want to keep a broom handy, because somehow I brought a bunch of dust into the van after I just cleaned it out. I'll just leave that right there. It is good to do as much as possible. So when you're finished with the big sections, go through and, you know, do those middle ones, because the more sound deadening material that you have, the better it helps. There was a comment earlier about, do we have more videos on this build? We do, but they're pretty much in live stream format. So they're just updating on, you know, the Flatline Vanco cabinets that I got and that type of material. We don't have any finished produced videos. The next finished produced video on this van is going to be the Dometic RTX 2000 AC install. So the piece we've been waiting on to finish that is coming in Monday. So as soon as it comes in, we'll make sure to get started on that. I spoke earlier about these middle channel pieces where there's no corrugations. These rows right here, they're excellent for putting wires across the van, because you're going to have this gap, and low gauge wires can go right under the floor, no problem. However, we have an in-floor shower pan right here, so we can't use that one. And then this one we also can't use, because this is our 2 bolt holes for bolting in our full drawer slide, I can't talk. We have a Flatline Vanco full extension drawer slide tray. And so this is to secure that. So what we're doing is the very back one, we're going to use that to bring the wires left and right of the van. Another thing you want to start thinking about, and this was a question that a viewer had, was the L track that we have on the Venture Wagon system. How do I know how high to cut off the L track so that it's not impeding the floor? So the easy answer would be to say, oh, hey, the floor is 1.5 inches thick, cut 1.5 inches off of it. But it's not that simple. Once you use the glue and adhesive, the foam, more adhesive, the floor, the epoxy, and then the other floor, it's best to do the floor first, get it completely done, and then go through and just kind of chip away at your L track to get it where you want it. Because what I did is I precisely measured, and because of the floor imperfections, it was a little too tight, or it was too perfect. So that's sometimes when being too perfect actually doesn't really get you anywhere. So it was exact, but I couldn't install the floor and put the bar in, I guess is what I'm saying. Now, one thing we're going to do as we install the floor is, once we get all this done, we did our rust preventative for all our holes, but we will be scuffing up the top of this just so that we can adhere the foam to the floor. And that adhesive is really just to kind of keep the foam in place. It's not really meant to be that much of a structural thing. So if you have any type of imperfections in the floor, like this little bubble cap, you can just push your hand around it and form it, and then come through here and just go ahead and cut it out. Following up on that answer that I just gave for the L track, the same thing applies to the wall panels. So most pre-cut wall panels are going to assume that you have some type of Ford Transit van floor, and it's going to come down pretty far, and you're going to have to cut that off. But just do the same process. Get your floor finished and done, and then measure up that difference and use that to cut it off. As you guys can see, if you've been following along with the live stream and the videos of this build, you notice in a way this build's kind of done backwards. We put the floor in temporarily, then we put all of our kitchen components, kitchen galley, our seat and everything, and that's because there's so many floor penetrations and cuts and specifics on here, it's not as easy as just putting a floor in and kind of building up from that. And I think it's the best way to do it because when you're building a van, you don't necessarily know where everything is going to perfectly fit. For example, this seat, there are three beams that go through each of our bolt holes. So I had to adjust it, you know, like in millimeters to be able to get every single bolt to go through the van instead of being on top of a beam. And by doing that, I needed to have the floor taken in and out a couple times. So now that I have everything drilled and laid out, it's really easy because all the holes are there. They've all been rust prevented. The heater port has been cut, and it just makes everything. It takes a long time to do it in the beginning, but that front end work makes the back end work really easy. Because now I know where my shower is, I know where my seat's at, my heater, I know where my pull-out tray is, I know where to avoid putting sound deadening, I know where I can glue, where I can't glue. So I'm not kind of guessing. Because you can imagine if you put your whole entire floor in and you're just kind of guessing where you drilled a hole and you mess up, you know, you might have 2 or 3 holes in your floor that you didn't need to cut. And, you know, hopefully that's not in a place where you can't undo it. Just to remind everybody, if you guys are watching, make sure that you ask questions in the chat. Happy to answer them tonight. And if you guys are wondering what I'm using for rust preventative, I'm just using good Lord, flat black Rust-Oleum. It's the, actually no, it's not Rust-Oleum. It is, well, I think it's made by Rust-Oleum. It's the Krylon Fusion. But the Krylon Fusion it's incredible. It's definitely made for, if you don't like to prep before you paint, that's who it's made for. I mean, you can spray it on anything and it adheres really well. So I like it. So when you're cutting this out, just use one as kind of like your template. And then you can go through and just copy that. And again, if you mess up on the sound deadening, it's really no big deal because, you know, you can just put 2 pieces together. It's not like cutting out a roof fan, you know. You can mess up on the kill mat, you're going to be fine. So this is our template. I'm just going to keep it over here. I used it over here, so I didn't want to do that, but I did it anyway. I hope everybody that's watching got a chance to watch the Evergreen, Colorado Adventure Van Expo film. That was a great trip. Going into Denver, then headed on to Evergreen. Evergreen's really nice. The park where they had the event was excellent. And yeah, a lot of great vans there. Good to see a lot of builders that I know. And I think we got some really good content for you guys out there just to, you know, see what products are available and talk to some better vendors, you know, one-on-one. One that I really enjoyed was the Lithionics. So when we talk to them, I really like how that product is coming along, where you have a ton of amp hours in a small area, and coupled with the internal BMS is really nice. So you guys can see how sticky this is and stringy. I forget what product it's made from. It's like a urethane or something like that. I was waiting for somebody to ask me why I put the heater over here instead of, underneath the seat. And if I can help it, I like to put it on the side with the fuel tank. I don't like to, if I can help it, have that fuel line cross over the exhaust system. Now, there's a safe way to do that, but if you don't even have to do it from the beginning, I think that's even better. So, like I said, there is a safe way to do it, but if you put it on the driver's side of the Ford Transit, you can tap, the fuel tank is right here, so you can just do a short run. There is an auxiliary fuel port on the Ford factory tank. It's just an additional port. You can buy a Ford factory coupler so that it's a Ford part going to a Ford fuel tank. So that's what we'll do. We'll have that in a future stream or video. But yeah, if you put it on the driver's side, you don't have to cross over that exhaust. Now, if you are in a spot where you have to do that, you can go to the race car industry, stock car industry, and they have these like aerospace grade. They're like these Velcro jackets that get over lines, and they're made to withstand, hundreds of degrees, and they slip over fuel lines, coolant lines, stuff like that. So that would be the solution if you had to go over it. It's so far away under the van, so maybe it's going to be 10 inches or 8. So very unlikely that anything would happen, but just to let you guys know, that product does exist. It is out there. If you want to just add a little bit more protection for yourself. So over here I have the outline of where the heater is, so I'm not going to put that kill mat over there. You guys are probably laughing. I could have just used a full sheet over there. Oh well. See, it doesn't matter. It's not that. It doesn't have to be that perfect. Guys, if you have any questions, put that in the chat. I think it's more for me because I'm doing a repetitive task tonight. And also, when you guys are doing this, double check. I see that I missed right here some rust preventative. So just make notes as you're going through of stuff that you missed in prepping the floor, because you really want to make sure anything you scratched up during, moving stuff around, that you take care of. And see, these small pieces, you can just use them for these little corners. Keep in mind where you're going to be doing wire runs. So for example, we're going to have our charging wire from our engine batteries come through here and go along this track underneath the floor around back to the wheel well. So we don't want to put anything in this channel. We want to keep that open. We don't have a really big wire going there. It's only 6 gauge, but we want to make sure it's just not something extra we have to work on. All right, we're doing pretty good here. So once I get this first section laid out, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys where the strips go. We'll do a kind of mock-up of the insulation of the floor install. We won't glue it, but we will hop in the computer. We'll talk about the lawn seal adhesive, stuff like that for just a second. And then that'll kind of be it. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, make sure you put those in the chat in the next few minutes, so I can definitely have time to answer your question. And a pro tip is, if you have this corner here, cut it with the backer paper. So this paper still attached, it just makes it easier. And then you can kind of just score it lightly so you don't scratch your paint. And then come back over here and just kind of finish it off. But really, doing this little bit of a kill mat, it's going to make a big difference. So you guys can tell, I hope you can hear that on the microphone, And then this is what we started with. So hear that? And it's going to turn into this. It's like more of a thud. So yeah, you guys can see this over here. This section right here is, there's two problematic sections and a Ford Transit. It's over here where I put this. So this patch right here, or this piece of sound data material, this section has 0 corrugations. From here all the way to here, all the way here. So this is always a trouble spot because it's a low point where it'll flex on you. Not in a good way. And then over here, this side is also the problem area. Typically, in a van, you come over this so that you have your kitchen galley. So if you can imagine, from this piece of wood right here, from this piece of wood all the way back to here, this area is completely unsupported with a corrugation. So that's why those vinyl strips make a humongous difference in not making the floor spongy. Another way you can do this is just put a sheet in when these wider spots. And I like Kilmat because they have this grid on here. And so you can just fold it and just cut right on the grid. So I'll show that to the camera real quick. You guys can see there's this grid to it. So you just kind of find your line. And what I've been doing is, see, you can actually almost like draw on it. Do you see that? Yeah, I made that like a circle. So this guy, somehow, I don't know how, but I cut it too big somehow. But if you don't push it down, you can reuse it. And actually, take this off again. So this section right here, this is where my wire is coming in, so I actually need to score this because it's going to mess up my wiring. So we took care of the wire on this side, but this side I messed up. So there we go. Yeah, we want to keep this open. Not that this is too high, but it's good to keep this nice painted surface so we can slide a cable in here if we need to. That way it doesn't get caught up on anything. All right, guys, we're gonna put this last piece, these last two pieces on. Then I'm gonna show you this the floor, and then we will call it for the live stream tonight. So if you guys have a question, make sure you answer it in the next, ask it in the next 5 minutes, so I can get to it. All right, if you guys just joined us, we are doing the process of putting in the floor for the Ford Transit build. And we are just working on this first section. We're doing the kill mat sound deadening, so that's our first step. And then for the future live streams, we're going to continue, and then we'll eventually get the whole entire floor in. And then we will be doing the lawn sill install, which I know a lot of people are looking forward to. It's a little technical, but we will be doing the full process. So we'll be, putting the epoxy down, all that good stuff. So we're just going to finish up doing a couple things here, and then we're going to do a mock install. So essentially we're going to do a dry fit, and we're going to do that actually right now. So as you can see, we have our kill mat in all the locations we need. We're going to go through, and just because of the length of the live stream, we're going to end here in just a little bit. We will go back and fill these in. So next time you guys will probably see the whole entire floor in. And actually what we might do is hold this so you guys can see the vinyl strips get installed. So first up, we have our kill mat. We're going to fill in these gaps like we just said. The next step, what you want to do is, at the beginning of the live stream, we talked about these vinyl strips. Now what these vinyl strips do is they are creating a level surface to the van floor. So this is just for example purposes tonight. So for example, on top of the kill mat, we would put any of these where we have wider corrugations, where we have a dip. So we'll have one here, we'll have one here, here. These smaller channels are okay. The main one that you want to do is this big gap channel over here. So you want to put a couple of them. But once all this is in place, you've done your rust preventative, you put your kill mat in, you're happy with the way everything looks, your kill mat is working for you, then you're going to take your insulation. Now, the step that's not covered in here is the templating process, so we have that in a different video. The templating process is how I traced and cut these pieces out. So the template that I used is from a company called AVC Rig. They were showcased in our Evergreen, Colorado film that just launched. Hope everybody gets a chance to watch that. But that company makes the floor that we used in Thomas's van, like an insulated floor that you can just instantly take out of the box and glue in. You have a full floor system. Now, I was cutting a lot of holes in the floor, so it didn't make sense for me to buy that kit and then just cut all the floor away. So what's nice is they have a template kit that you can buy. It's essentially big engineering drawings on paper. You lay it on your 4x8 sheet of plywood, and then you go ahead and cut it out. It gives you 3 pieces of paper just like their full floor system, except you're doing it on your own wood and your own insulation. So we did it on this. It cuts out a perfect template. I mean, it's extremely precise. They did a very good job on it. And then what we do here is we'll go ahead and we'll put our adhesive down. So we're going to use silicone, or you can also use the Marine, the Loctite PL Premium Marine Edition, and that's going to have a good secure use. I don't use the 3M90 and spray adhesives like that because I want to be able to move this into place and match up all my lines perfectly. I don't want to just put it down and then if I mess up, I'm ripping up what I just cut out, which would not be good. As you can see here, this piece is supporting. So once you get the adhesive and everything, this will actually assist the foam in not deflecting. As a bonus, you can take this 1-inch aluminum And for your joints, we're not going to do one here, obviously, because we have the shower pan. But for these floor joints, we'll do this in the back of the van, but it's not necessary up here because we have kitchen galleys covering this seam. But sometimes when you do a van floor, these two pieces of this transition is going to have a seam, and over time it's going to move, and you'll see that seam line. All right, I'm pausing on seam line. We have a question here from Go and Do. Do you find a big difference for sound deadening on the floor? I chose to skip it and use 1-inch foam and 3/4 inch plywood. I will say that the sound deadening, it does make a pretty good difference. When you're doing this much surface area, I would almost say it's substantial. However, so Go Do you used a thicker plywood. So I'm only using 1/2 inch. If you use 3/4 plywood, the mass of that plywood is also going to do a similar job as the kill mat. Because the 3/4 inch plywood, that's pretty hefty. You'd be surprised if you guys had a piece of 1/2 inch and a piece of 3/4. 3/4 is much heavier. So a heavier plywood will also assist. And just doing your insulation and the plywood is going to make your floor night and day if you didn't use the kill mat. The kill mat is just that little extra on top that's going to, bring that road noise down a little bit more. But the fact that you use 3/4 inch plywood is very good. Oh, the van is looking good. Thank you very much. I will tell you, I took the kitchen galley out. It's not a big deal because I have a way sliding it out, but the flip and fold seat weighs so much. I mean, that seat must weigh almost, it almost weighs 100 pounds, I swear. So I hope that answered your question. Hopefully I spelled denser right. The denser wood makes to reduce sound as well. Okay, there we go. Oh yeah, I keep forgetting I'm answering from my, I'm gonna answer as the other one. Hold on here. I'm still here. I just need to write that. Oh no, I gotta remove that. I'm still here, guys. I'm over at the computer typing because I did it on my phone and I did not do it on the computer. The 3/4 inch plywood works. Let's see here. due to its weight. Helps to reduce sound as well. There we go. All right, that way I can get rid of that comment. There we go. Okay. All right, where were we? We're talking about the floor. So we have our floor down, and Go and Do made a good point. You don't have to use half-inch floor. I mean, you can use 3/4 inch, and you don't have to use Baltic birch or like the sanded ply like I'm using. I mean, if used like an oak or something like that, like a hardwood, it's really heavy. You know, that would help as well. But it's all kind of a give and take. You know, at the end of the day, it still is a van as much as you do to it. So that's why every little bit helps. Okay. So over here, we were talking about the insulation in the seams. So what we're going to do is we're going to take these pieces of aluminum, and where we have seams in the back and we have lots of compression, we're going to use this to bridge our gap. So I'm going to get a second piece of aluminum, and hopefully you can see on the camera what I'm talking about. So right here, what we have is 2 pieces of aluminum. So once you do your template, what you can do is, so that you can make sure you remove the possibility of having that gap in the floor over time, because it will be visible over time. The van will be flexing and moving. You can take your piece of tubing, score a line. That'll tell you, you know, to remove 1 inch of material. You'll put the aluminum piece in place, and then you can use the marine adhesive to scuff this down. Use marine adhesive. Humble Road does this in his builds, so he's a great resource as far as learning how to do this. That's where I got it from. And this aluminum piece right here now is a sturdy piece, and it's not going to flex. It's kind of one with the van at the moment. Not only does it do this, but it holds insulation in, and then when you get your second piece of aluminum, that's where the magic happens. That second piece is bridging that gap for that seam. So what happens is when you go to put your wood on top of here, you can countersink your screw into the wood. So you put your wood here, and so now the wood will be countersunk into the aluminum. So you countersink a hole, that way the screw head goes below the surface. You drill it here, and since both of these pieces of aluminum are bonded to the van floor, the next piece of wood that goes right here, that gap, I actually have another piece of wood. Over here, there it is. So when you have your other piece of floor, this is that transition. So this is your second piece. So over time, it's not a straight piece of wood. Over time, this seam is what's going to move. The floor is going to be flexing like this. But if you countersink this piece, and then you take this and you countersink this piece, now that seam is one. So you've taken 2 things and made them one. That way, you're not going to have that difference in surface height. And when you do the epoxy method, the epoxy, one, is going to fill in this crack. So that we did it on Thomas's van when we put the 2 sides together. I put a lot of epoxy, let it go down into the crack. And then once that epoxy was there, I put the floor down. And now that transition, you can't even see it. It's just like it's not even there. Now, a cheating method would be to get a thicker floor. But the beauty about lawn sill is it's a very resilient product, and it's thin, low profile, easy to work with type of thing. So again, it's that kind of cost benefit, you know, kind of back and forth. So this is how you get rid of the seams in your floor. But so as amazing as I say that this foam product is, and it has a 15 psi strength, the pull-out tray that I wanted to put in the van is bolted through the chassis. If anything is bolted through the chassis, it's going to compress the foam. The problem is when you compress the foam, there's not any kind of like meat behind. It's, you know, it's squishy, right? Regardless of how rigid it is. The problem when you put a tray in and you do a bolt through the frame is you're going to tighten down that nut, and you're going to think it's tight, and then the foam's going to squish, and you're going to tighten it more, and then the foam's going to squish, and it's going to squish again. And then what you're going to get is you're going to get a bow in the floor because you've sandwiched the foam down on your, it doesn't matter if it's a bolt-in tray, slide-out tray, you're going to squish. So that is why you'll see the seat over here. It would be very unsafe if the seat was on top of the foam and we just bolted the seat down, because we can't torque our bolts safely because it's just going to always compress the foam. Same thing's going to happen in the back. So how do we resolve that? Well, let's get something like this that you can't compress. So this is going to go back there where the tray is. And when I put the wood over it and the tray goes on top, the bolt that goes through this and this is now going to be metal to wood. And I'll be able to bolt it down, and it's going to stay where it needs to be. It's not going to keep compressing a piece of foam. It's going to be compressing a piece of aluminum. So that's a long-winded way of saying, you know, find out stuff in the van. I'm really big about safety. So if there's a safer way to do it, that's the route I'm going to take. You could just put everything down and not use this. It's okay. But for example, the slide-out tray, if you just say you have a Dometic cooler on it, you have all your camping gear, but the tray is just bolted into this one piece of wood on your van, right? So if you pull out the full extension, there's a lot of leverage on this wood, you know, wanting to rip it up off the floor or the bolts out. So I'm doing this so that there's no way it's coming out. We're using grade 8 bolts to bolt it in the back so that leverage is not there anymore. Or it's there, but it's held down. Anyway, so just kind of think about that. If you're putting in a flip and fold seat or any type of seating, you know, be wary when it's bolted directly to the wood, because, you know, foam is compressible, and you want to make sure that it's metal to metal. That would be the way you'd want it to in a perfect world. Okay, so let's see here. Any questions? It looks like we don't have any questions. All right, guys. This is pretty much the beginning tutorial on this floor system. Hope all this stuff made sense to you. If it doesn't, put those questions in the comments. I'll be happy to answer them. We will be continuing this process every night. I will try to hop on here, get something prepped to where I have something kind of prepped to show you for a live stream. Live streams are fun, but I do need to make sure that I have all this stuff ready so that, you know, it's entertaining for you guys. It's not me running around the shop getting materials, although that happens. But this is the first part. We're going to do the same thing 3 times. So we got a second section back here. That's going to be kill mat, sound and deadening. We have a third. We'll come back, put our vinyl strips in, and we'll just kind of do start piece by piece. This will be a time lapse to cover the stuff that you guys aren't going to be able to see. That way you can keep up with the whole process. I know someone was asking in the comments where are other videos on this build, and they are in the live streams. If you go back, you know, a couple weeks ago, they're there. They're just long format. But we'll do shorter time lapse for the main video. So the floor will be in this week. Monday, the 1-inch spacer from DIY Van comes in. That's going to allow us to complete our Dometic RTX 2000 install, which will be great. Once we do that, we got the floor in. We're going to go to, we already did the, we'll probably be going over and getting that power system in because it's so beefy and so heavy. And we'll start running our lines to it. And then we'll kind of just keep going from there. We have to upholster this window frame over here from Adventure Wagon. Right behind me, the Marathon fabric finally came in. It was on back order for 4 months, if you can believe it. So yeah, everything is going really well. And I'm really excited to show you guys the final product. I know if you guys have been a long-time viewer, you've been wondering when this van is going to get done. We've been traveling to shows. In the middle, you know, we worked on Thomas's van, which was an incredible build. That van is decked out like crazy. So that was a really fun way to kind of see the capabilities, the amount of like Baja design lights, the electric awning that was self-supporting, 550 watts of solar on the roof, 2 max fans, ARB air compressor, pretty much the works in that van. But this will be kind of the theme going forward with the live stream, so I hope you guys enjoy it. And I'm going to be on here for just a couple more minutes. Let me know if you guys have any questions. I saw a couple more viewers come on for the live stream. I'll just do a quick recap for the new guys that just came on the live stream. Every night we're going to be doing a little update on this build. We have a deadline. We've got a 3-week deadline. We're going to knock this build out finally. Right now it's just the detail stuff. We got the floor, a little bit of wiring. Our power system has already been built off on the bench. It's just got to be disassembled and brought back in here. Yesterday we finished our final 2 holes for our 40-gallon water system. So those are our last floor penetrations that we needed to do. Today we went ahead and rust prevented everything. We installed kill mat on this first section, kind of showed you how to start that process, why it's important. Some products, little tips. We have this little PVC vinyl strips that help level the floor out. We talked about the Fomular 150 R5 insulation that we're using here. Then we have our 1/2-inch plywood, and we're just kind of going from there. We're going to be using lawn seal for the flooring of this van. Extremely durable, but we're going to use that has an epoxy process, so it's a little technical. We already have a video where we showed how to do that process on Thomas's van. The challenge with that epoxy process is you have 30 minutes from when you mix part A and B. It needs to sit for 15 minutes and do its little reaction, and then you only have 15 minutes to coat the whole van. So I don't want to say I developed a process, but I put together something that helped me get it done. One was a tip from somebody who put a screw in the top and a screw in the bottom right down the center, and that allowed them to fold it over, do one side, kind of peel it back over, do the other side, and believe it or not, I set a timer for 7 minutes. So when the first timer went off, I knew I had to get over here, and I had 7 more minutes. I know it's technically 7.5, but 7 minutes goes by very quickly, so you guys will get to see that as well. I may even do that on a live stream. That'll be pretty fun to watch. But yeah, once we get the floor in, if you guys have seen previous stuff, you know, we have the kitchen gallery's already been modified. It's ready to go. The flip and fold seat's ready to go. The Isotherm Cruise 130 fridge, the aluminum shell for that, it's already been modified and powder coated. It's all set to go, so this stuff's just going to pop in overhead cabinets and shelves and stuff like that. So yep, that's what we're doing. Let's see, we got a question here from Edward. Lap joint and glue for the ply seam, metal sleeve thickness of the foam on the bolt. Let's see here, I'm gonna try to do this step by step. So lap joint and glue for the ply seam. So right here, yep, so everybody, if you just came on, the cool part is we did cover that. So I'll tell you exactly what we did. What we're doing to take care of this seam, so the glue for the seam, first what we're doing is we have our foam. We're just gonna, straight up make a mark, cut off the material we need to remove from the foam, put this in its place. We're going to use marine adhesive to glue this to the body of the van. That is going to give us our transition seam. We're going to do the same thing for our second piece of wood that goes right here. And now this 2 pieces of 1-inch aluminum is going to allow us to have this flat mating surface so that when we have our wood come over here, we'll countersink that wood, we'll countersink it into one piece of the aluminum. The second panel will come here, and that'll also be countersunk. Now that gets us like 99% of the way because we have a solid surface. Both pieces of wood have a clean seam. Yeah, they're mounted super solid, so they're not going to flex over time. And then the icing on the cake, which I'm hoping this is going to answer your question, is the glue for the ply seam. So we're going to be using epoxy, a 2-part epoxy from Lawn Seal, and that is what is designed with the flooring to have it adhere to the wood. I did miss something. Before we do that, we are going to treat the floor with this stuff called Sticks. It's made by Benjamin Moore and actually Sherwin-Williams. I don't know why I said Benjamin Moore. Sherwin-Williams. So this product right here is a urethane acrylic. It's a bonding primer. It's specifically made for coating a wood surface so that it can accept an epoxy adhesive. So this product right here, I'll show it on the camera close up. This is what I'm using. It's expensive, but it does the job. I think it's like $70 a gallon, 65 or something like that. So that'll coat the wood first, and then we'll trowel, after that cures, we'll trowel on the epoxy, put the epoxy nice and thick on the joint, and then that is what is going to kind of glue, is the glue for the ply seam technically. The metal sleeve thickness, so I'm assuming you're asking the gauge of this aluminum. It's thin. I think it's 1/16 of an inch. It's, from Lowe's. It's not like 1/4 inch or anything like that. I would say that's overkill, just in my personal opinion. It's 1/16 of an inch, and I think it's fine. It's gonna work just good. I actually use the same wall thickness to make the solar frames up top, and they're extremely strong. Sleeve thickness of the foam. The foam is 1 inch on the bolt. I'm not sure that last part of that question, so yeah, let me know what you mean by thickness of the foam on the bolt. So you got any more questions? Yeah, and I'll wait just a minute, Edward, to see if you can Just give me a little bit more info on what you mean by that last part. Yeah, so that is that's kind of the plan for this floor. And if you guys have any more questions, put those through. We're going to wrap it up here pretty shortly. The nice thing is, what also adds to the speed is it's an Adventure Wagon interior conversion kit. If you guys are wondering why there's this orange kind of steel structure in here. So that's what they call their A-frame. And that is what allows this kit to be installed so quickly. Now, quickly is an interesting term because it takes a while to install the A-frame. There's tons of rivets. The whole entire frame is riveted with plus nuts into the frame or the walls of the van. But once you get that in, all the panels are upholstered except this one, because traditionally there's not a window here. So this is something that I'll show you later. I kind of did a modification to. But everything else is kind of plug and play. Let's see what Edward said. Suggestion alternatives to join ply seam and the bolt sleeve to stop foam compression. Gotcha. Yes, lap joint. I know. Okay, I know exactly what you're talking about. So, and correct me if I'm wrong, Edward, but lap joint is also a good idea. So, and yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, Edward, but if you routed down this 1/2 inch, so let's say you routed it down 1/4 inch, you did the same here, but the opposite direction, and you could lap that joint, that would be flush. I do like, I was considering doing that first, but then I saw this aluminum method and from Humble Road, and I wanted to try it out because I liked how I was going and grabbing into metal. But that lap joint, let's see here. Yeah, but that lap joint is a good idea. Let's see what else here. Bolt for the chair, etc. Yes, so a metal sleeve, I've used that in some other applications where, yes, so I have metal sleeves for the seat because of that corrugation, that little bump up. So I have, let's see, how big is that? I don't think it's 7/8 or something like that, but it's, yes, it's like a collar that goes on the bolt to keep everything nice and level. So you could do that too. Home Depot actually makes them, believe it or not. They make these chrome sleeves, and I've used them on when I needed to space bolts on the solar panel, as well as some other things, but they're these chrome sleeves. So you can get them in 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch, and you put that sleeve on there, and then you get some, greater surface area, so stuff is not plunging through. So Edward, that's a good point. So sleeves for the chair, I am using that, so that is how that problem is solved. Not because of the floor, but because of that corrugation that bumps up and doesn't allow it to be perfectly flat, but it's definitely the same thing you're talking about. The lap joint for the wood, I like that. I think if I was more patient, I would maybe do the router method, but I'm already using the aluminum tubing for that back end. I'm not going to use it for this seam and that seam because they're both going to be underneath the kitchen galleys, so they'll never be seen. Not that that's not important, but this whole seam it's really busy over here. So we have the fridge, we have the in-floor shower pan, and then we have the other kitchen galley over here. So everything is just covering it on top of that seam, so it's not an issue. But going backwards, we have 3 bars for our pull-out, slide-out tray, and we'll definitely cover that as we get closer to finishing that up. And I just noticed one thing. I think I'm going to have to use Edward's method on the back because I have a dip in the floor. So even if I use this, I'm still going to have a spacer underneath it because the corrugation goes away. So, yep, that's why I love our subscribers and viewers, because this is how we solve problems. So let's see. Yeah, yep. So 80/20 has gotten so expensive. 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, I put an order in and it was reasonable. And then it went up, but now I'm gonna have to go to a previous live stream. There was a viewer that told me about another website that makes 80/20 brackets, or like angle brackets. I completely forgot what it is, but it's almost half price. Have I found any cheaper alternatives? Okay, so this van, this is a really good topic to get on tonight. This van obviously is it's a very high-end build. You know, you have the Adventure Wagon interior system. You've got all the 80/20 components. You know, we've got 600 amp hours of battery. We've got the Dometic RTX 2000, 40-gallon water tank. So I completely understand, especially with the kitchen galleys. You know, this is you know, more expensive. So I'm glad that's being asked right now, because so this is a spec build for my van build business. So this is more of a showcase of capabilities of the van. So as far as the DIY part, building it is really good information from DIY. But Drake, just like you were saying, you know, completely understand that stuff is out of price range, very expensive. So my answer to that would be what I was thinking about doing before this build. And that is square aluminum tubing. And there's a builder, it's Off Grid Solutions PDX. You probably watched him. Jared Tachi has done some interviews with his shop. And he's an aluminum welder, and he hand welds all his frames in the van. So I'm not saying you need to weld the frame, but that's something I wanted to do. That way I could kind of still get that strength and structure. But if you really are on a budget and you want to build a van, you know, you can build stuff out of plywood. My mantra here at Odyssey Custom Vans, I don't want to use plywood for my customer builds, but my personal van, it's all plywood. The whole entire van, everything is made from plywood. And I love that van. I've had it for almost over 3 years, and I take it on trips. I love it. There's nothing wrong with it. But when you do use plywood, you really have to just keep safety top of mind. I have no problem with anyone building plywood builds, because I built it, because, you know, I'm not going to buy all that 80/20 for my personal build, and because it is expensive, and it's expensive if you cut it wrong too. So I don't think there's anything wrong with plywood. Just make sure, always keep safety top of mind. When you're building it, always think of, you know, get into an accident and, you know, something splintering, that type of thing. I know that's kind of a down note, but, you know, you're driving a vehicle on the road on the highway, you can build a wood build safe. You just got to make sure you think about, you know, the cause and effect. So when I was building my personal van, I built everything in sections, and I made sure that there was kind of like intermediary things to keep things from shifting. So for example, I put a toolbox in the van, but the toolbox is bolted and riv nut into the frame of the van, and that protects me, the driver, from the rest of the build in the event of an accident. Then I have a partition that's bolted to the toolbox, and that protects me, protects my head if anything happens. And then everything throughout the build has little angle brackets bolted into the structure of the van, so if I hit something, nothing's really going to move. Or if something does break and fail, there's something else that's going to allow it to absorb it or protect me. So that, just me personally, that if you want to do a build from wood cabinets, wood structure, as long as you're doing it safely and you're thinking about a vehicle driving 75 miles an hour on the highway, always kind of think of that in mind. Don't think of you're at a campsite and hanging out. Think of the to and from, because I want everybody to be as safe as possible. Let's see here. Looked at aluminum roof rack mount kit. Yeah, I mean, sometimes I think about, you know, what if I just built roof racks and sold them, because it's not like a cost plus materials type of thing these days. It's like a cost plus materials plus 50% markup or something like that. It's very expensive. So, oh, if you guys want a DIY roof rack on my personal build, I need to bring the personal build back on the channel. I've been doing all this, and I'm just kind of, you guys haven't even seen it. One of the first videos that I did on this channel was the tour of my van. And maybe I need to bring it back because it's really good. It's stuff that I needed to find at Lowe's to make my van work. So the top of my van, what I did is I used two pieces of unistrut or super strut. And unistrut, if you guys know, that's just what they mount electrical boxes to on warehouses. But if you do it horizontal, you can use all the spring couplings and stuff, and it makes a really awesome roof rack. It's very heavy, but it's extremely cheap. So 2 pieces of unistrut, 4 half-size unistruts across, and boom, you got a roof rack. Oh, welded? Yeah. So Drake welded everything to the floor. Okay, you have surpassed me. I've not. I don't think I'll weld stuff to the floor, but if it's welded to the floor, you got my stamp of approval. It's not going anywhere. So the rivets that I use, they're riv nuts or plus nuts. So I actually have like a hydraulic drill attachment, and when it goes in, it mushrooms on the back, and then you unscrew it and the threads remain. So that's how this whole entire Adventure Wagon build is done. And it's pretty impressive because I didn't mess up on any of them. I had to chase the threads on a couple, but I don't ever see how those things are coming out if you do them right. So riv nuts, I think that's a really good. Riv nuts are good. But regular rivets, no. So any like aluminum rivet. So these rivets that I use, they're steel rivets. Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, if you're using wood for the build, just be smart. Just always consider that, you know, you're driving the van on the highway, and if somebody cuts you off, you know, how is your van going to react? Same thing on the roof. There is a limit to, there's a static load for the roof. Then there's a dynamic load for the roof. So static is if you park your van, it's not moving, you know, you can put 400 pounds up there. But a dynamic load for the Ford Transits, I actually looked this up the other day. Let me get that number. Let's see here. Where is that dynamic load? Actually, the dynamic load for the Ford Transit is 220 pounds. So when I get the roof all finished up, then it's going to be 214.6 pounds. So I'm right at right under the limit. I got 5 pounds to spare when I get this roof done. And so my roof is, it is the RTX 2000, Dometic RTX 2000 Max fan. Then we got the Flatline Vanco roof rack. Then we just got ordered the 220 watt solar panel for the middle, and then we got 2 additional 100 watt panels. And so all that together is a lot. Yeah, riv nuts. I really like riv nuts. There's a thing called a riv nut adapter, and that thing is really, really cool. So it's on the DIY checklist. So check out that checklist. It is, I mean, the DIY van build cheat sheet. It's on the DIY van build cheat sheet, that riv nut gun. But yeah, solar panels are 66 pounds. Roof rack is 64 pounds. The Dometic AC is 64 pounds, and the Max fan, believe it or not, is 20 pounds. So, yeah, really, you know, just think safety. That's awesome. Yeah, I back in the day I had a Chevy S10 Blazer that I shaved the roof rack. It was a custom car, but I shaved the roof rack and I didn't have a welder to weld in those holes, so I bondoed it, and obviously it cracked, a little ring. But yeah, there's a. It sounds like there's nothing getting in that roof's not coming off. If you welded all that, that's pretty awesome. Yeah, in the future, I do want to use 1-inch tubing to weld kitchen galleys and stuff together, because I like doing the spec build as far as pre-made cabinets that go in, because the speed is really quick, but the dimensions are not what I would like. So I have to kind of, it's like a give and take. Yeah, I bet it took a long time. Let's see here. Yeah. What kind of van do you have, Drake? If you say gutter, I'm guessing it's like a E350 or something like that. Oh, Sprinter. Okay. Oh, yeah, that has a gutter. Yeah, I got you. I got you. Let's see, 2008. Nice. So I'm assuming you painted it. Does it rust really bad, or did you just kind of like forget it and just let it do its thing? Because angle iron is really good to weld, and it's easy to weld and work with, but I know the elements don't like it too much. Oh, Pour 15. Yeah. Yeah. I was thinking about using that. I think I watched a video. I've got a 1999 KLR 650 motorcycle, and I've got to redo the inside of the tank. And I think I saw a YouTube video where somebody did the Pour 15 method on the inside and got some pretty good results. Yeah, that's the thing is prepping any type of metal. That's where all the work is. You can't have any rust on there. It just messes it up. Yeah, that's why I do like using the aluminum for all the roof racks and stuff like that. But I completely get it. You know, if you got to go to the angle iron, it does add a bunch of work to get it nice and weatherproofed. All right, guys, it's getting late here on the East Coast, so got time for like one more question here, and then we are going to drop off, and we'll be back tomorrow. We'll see how much we can get done tomorrow in the shop before the live stream, and then we'll just keep on trucking. But yeah, guys, wanted to thank you guys for sticking around for the live stream tonight. Again, we'll finish this floor up. We got some more stuff coming through tomorrow, and yeah, hopefully throughout the weekend we'll go ahead and get this floor system put in, because yep, clock's ticking. We got to get this system in, the power system, the water system, and then we'll start all the other fun stuff. So yeah, Drake, appreciate all the questions. And guys, if you have any future questions, or you have somebody that might need this video, share it to them. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel. Give us a big like here, and we look forward to, or I look forward to seeing you guys in the next live stream.